of today is we want to give candidates, but also businesses in and around the Manchester area, an understanding of what sets your business apart and why it's such a great place to work, so people in this time can take something away and learn something. So my first question is, given that you've won so many awards, you're growing, you're still looking to hire into the new year and hiring during such a difficult period for many businesses last year, what makes Nivo such a great place to work?
Yeah, I think we're obviously in an exciting sector. So software generally and technology is just a booming industry. Obviously, in modern times, digitization of things is just becoming more and more prevalent. And within that, I think maybe I'm biased, but in the UK, fintech is certainly one of the most exciting, if not the most exciting sector to be in, because we're so strong in it. You know, we've got such a big financial services sector, which was my background, and you know, huge investment now going into technology firms and particularly into fintech. So I think what's really interesting about us is you know, we aren't just another fintech company. One thing that definitely sets us apart is the fact that we're based in Manchester. So as you touched on there before, Manchester's, you know, again, it's kind of booming. I think it is becoming the second challenger to London for the technology scene. And, you know, it seems like Nivo's come, I think, into the market at just the right time. So, you know, there's tons of really exciting technology businesses getting set up in Manchester. Some big players, like in the e-commerce world with the likes of Boohoo and the Hut Group and Amazon, obviously recruiting in the space as well. So some big tech coming to the city as well. So yeah, it just feels great to be kind of flying the flag for fintech within that, really, with a few other big Manchester fintech firms. So yeah, I think that combination of being in fintech and being high growth and being technology and being part of the Manchester scene makes us quite a unique proposition.
Yeah, amazing. It sounds great. I think you're definitely right in terms of the fintech space. It's definitely one of those areas within the whole of the UK where we're seeing the most flexibility with new businesses, new ideas, and massive growth. So it's great that you're at the forefront of that in Manchester for sure. In terms of culture, such a buzzword, how would you describe the culture at Nivo?
I think you know, it's probably a lot what you'd expect from an early stage high growth business. So it's very entrepreneurial. You know, we're full of really, you know, super talented people. You know, I'm always really proud when I kind of, well, these days go on a Zoom call, or we meet up and you know, there's real energy around the meetings that we have and a real passion for the business and just tons and tons of ideas, which I think is a big thing about being entrepreneurial. And just, yeah, a passion for doing what we do and for delighting our customers. I think the reality of being a small company is that everyone is in touch with everything, and everyone's in touch with the customers, and every success you kind of live together, and every hurdle you go at together. So there's a real kind of camaraderie with that, and you know, you don't maybe get some of the challenges of bigger companies where everyone's in different functions and people don't even know each other and things like that. So that's really nice. And yeah, I think one of the key things about our culture as well is that it's just a really supportive place to work as well. So whilst, you know, everyone's really ambitious and determined and focused on what we want to do, that doesn't kind of come at the cost of you know, being overly aggressive or you know, maybe taking shortcuts or not doing the right thing. So I think there's a real kind of nice vibe, for want of a better word, about the team and the culture that we have as well, which again I'm kind of proud of when we come to work and we see how all the team operate together.
Yeah, definitely. I think when you work in an early stage startups, that part of being an entrepreneur in terms of what you're doing and really taking pride for your own piece, I think that's why I like working in a startup, is because I have that excitement of understanding what the tech team's doing, what marketing's doing, and having the opportunity to have an input in that. And I think your point to working in a much larger business, you're not going to potentially maybe get that experience where you could potentially get it in an early stage startup like yourself.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, I know last year we banged on about it, and usually we want to forget about what happened last year, but it seems like we're back in the same place this year. I know you've mentioned your digital business, but 2020 was a really tough year for everyone from all walks of life. Everyone was affected by it. So when it comes down to you and the team, how did you firstly adapt to it, but also make sure that everyone in the team was still engaged and given their utmost for the business?
Yeah, in a way, we were, but it was I don't know if difficult's the right word, but it was it was unpredictable, concerning time, I'd say, for the business, because things in our markets that we operated in were changing so quick. So we had, clients that were almost shuttering up completely,
Yeah.
furloughing staff and just, pulling out of the businesses in which they operate, and then other clients that were just madly accelerating their digital plans because they had a reliance on postal channels or physical branches that just weren't operational anymore. So yeah, it went a bit mad from that perspective, and that was probably our biggest impact, because actually, as a business, we've always been quite strong in terms of remote working. People do work from home quite a lot anyway, some more than others. We use co-working sites, so people do have the option to kind of get together. But ultimately, we're completely paperless. We completely run in the cloud. Or everyone in the business, to varying extent, was able to work remotely. So it was kind of just more of the same, really. And I think the challenge just became, on a relationship level, when we're all sat in Zoom meetings like this all day, every day, how do you maintain that kind of team dynamic? And I'd be lying if I said it hasn't been affected. Like, I do want to get back to a position where we do have the opportunity to get together in person, because it's hard to put your finger on it. But, I just think on a human level, you miss the contact. To be honest, I miss it, and I think other members of the team do too. But I do think video calling technologies and Slack and things like that, they do help you kind of stay in touch and mitigate some of the issues associated with that. Like we were discussing before, actually, in some ways, people have seen benefits in being at home more, and not having to travel around the country more, and all the time that saves and things like that. So there've been a few kind of silver linings. But yeah, the kind of things we've done is just, we've always had regular meetings where people get together in teams. We've had retrospective sessions where people can talk about what's going on in the company, and the issues with remote working and enforced lockdowns have come up at that. We've tried to take actions to do things, having Zoom calls which are a bit more fun, like quizzes and stuff like that we've done. So yeah, we've done bits and pieces, and but yeah, generally we're probably one of the luckier ones. It wasn't a huge operational impact for us.
Nice. Well, you basically predicted what was happening in the future anyway, from the sounds of it. You already set up.
Not so much. No, yeah, well, I guess what we predicted was it's possible to work remotely a lot, and that works for a lot of people. And I think it's one of the perks of working for Nivo is how well we can support that. It seems like the world's caught us up now, because everyone supports it, don't they? They've had to.
Exactly. Well, the thing is, businesses are going to be set up to do it as easily as you for a start. So it's going to take time to adjust to it. But from the looks of things, now that people have had that time to work from home, if they have got families and they want to stay, or in terms of traveling, they don't want to do that commute, having that option and that flexibility to do that is going to be such an important thing for candidates when they're looking to new businesses. I know we've spoken about candidates, about the business already. and I know you've been growing in those terms as well, but it'd be great to understand um, the learning and development opportunities that you provide for your staff at Nivo.
Yeah, I mean, I think I like previous to Nivo, I spent I think 13 years in a big multinational bank, and you know, it's great. I got tons of great career opportunities, and I did lots of different roles in that because it was such a big organization, and I was successful, and I enjoyed it and everything. They were a great employer, but ultimately, I'd say I've learned so much more in the past, you know, whatever it's been, 3 and 4 years, doing Nivo than I, you know, easily learned more than I did in those whole 13 years. Just because you're exposed to everything, you know, you're not pigeonholed into one particular position. You know, you've got to be an HR person, operations person, a product person, a project person, a marketer, a salesperson. You know, and that's true not just for founders like myself, but for people joining the team also.
Yeah.
So I think everyone, you know, lots of our team have come in with varying degrees of experience, but most of them with quite a lot of experience doing certain disciplines. But for everyone, it's been a huge learning curve because you just have to cover so much more ground.
Yeah.
And as we were saying before, you have to be able to understand what's going on in the rest of the business too. So I definitely think you get like on the job, hands-on learning.
Yeah.
Which is, you know, for me, always the best way to learn anything is by actually doing it. And then, you know, we do a lot as well, but we're just flexible, and it's kind of self-directed in terms of people doing courses. A lot of us in the team are big readers of things, and people will talk about what they're reading and things like that. But yeah, you know, it's not like you come in and you've got a formalized training program. But if you identify a training course that you want to do or that you think would benefit the whole of the team, then there's lots of examples of where we've invested in that.
Yeah, definitely. I think from the sound of things, people who work with you and the team have a lot of autonomy in terms of effectively the sky's the limit really in terms of where you want to be as a business, and especially working there, because it sounds like you're not pigeonholed into a set training course or potentially you've got experience in, but you can go out there and see what you want to do, and having that ability of self-education is so important now. And given that autonomy is such an important piece for working at home, candidates who are going to be watching this or reading it are gonna, and businesses are gonna take a lot away from what we've spoken about today. I think one thing that I'd really like to cover off with you is, I know that last year was a difficult year in terms of diversity, inclusion, Black Lives Matter. I know you've got many businesses that use Nivo that have most likely taken a stance on this, but it'd be great for me to understand what you've done as a founder of a business to help educate those within the team at Nivo on things like this.
Yeah, so we've you know, we've always tried to be as diverse as possible. We've always been quite conscious, I suppose, that it just so happens like when we founded the business, you know, it's a group of people from the banking sector, which isn't the most diverse sector, and we knew each other and we were kind of friends, and so you know, that naturally does tend to make you look quite similar as well. So when the four of us actually started out to recruit, we were keen to kind of break that and try and introduce that diversity into the team, which I think we've done really well. You know, we're at like 14 people, so we haven't, you know, covered a full gambit of diversity, but we're certainly looking a lot more diverse than for, you know, middle-aged white guys from banks, which is what we were at the start. Maybe middle-aged is a bit harsh, certainly for some of us, but getting on there, getting towards that a certain age bracket anyway. And so yeah, that's been great. And you know, you've got to you've got to, I think, recognize the potential for, just in a business context for kind of groupthink and just taking the direction of the business and the thinking and the way you do things in a certain direction, because you don't have that diversity without even really being aware of it.
Yeah.
So yeah, we've definitely aimed to address that. We've put in place a policy that everyone's familiar with, and as we recruit, we're just actively on the lookout all the time for seeing opportunities to bring something different into the business. It's not all about just ticking skills boxes.
Yeah, no, definitely, completely agree. Completely agree. Just down to a couple last questions. From the sounds of things, it seems that great autonomy. People are obviously self-reliant, can educate themselves. You've got a diverse team of different experiences. Given that you've won so many awards over the last few years, you've been recruiting during the last pandemic, and it seems like you're going to be recruiting again this year as well and growing even more. How are you planning on maintaining that great culture that you have at Nivo at the moment?
Yeah, I don't know. Sometimes I think about that. It definitely is going to be a challenge, as things ramp up. I think the big thing that's going to be a challenge is when we do our next raise.
Yeah.
And basically where we spend money is on people.
Yeah.
So what'll that mean is a ton more people coming into the business, and recruitment's so important in that, because ultimately it's the people that you recruit, I think, that are the biggest driver of your culture. Obviously, the founders and the people who are in leadership positions in the business have an impact on that as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I definitely believe it is not about writing culture statements down, but it's it's the actions you take and the things that happen that really drive the culture. What people see actually going on.
Yeah.
So I'm confident that the leaders we've got at the minute will continue to promote the great culture that we've got at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, we've just got to be really careful of the people that we recruit into the business, particularly if they're coming into leadership positions, to make sure that we don't compromise that and actually do the opposite on the culture point. We bring in really interesting people who can complement it and bring new aspects to it. But yeah, I guess ultimately, I don't think culture is something you can control too much.
Mm-hmm.
I think you've just got to be clear on, the kind of things that you want and the kind of things that you don't want.
Yeah.
And if you've got something in your culture that you don't want, then you take decisive action, I think, to get rid of that. And if you want things in your culture, you've got to role model them, as well as just communicating them. So it'll be a challenge, and yeah, we'll see how it goes. I think it'll be a challenge, particularly after this raise, I would say.
Nice. Usually when people speak about challenges, they're not smiling. It seems like you're very excited about what's going to be happening.
You broke up a bit there, actually, Ash. I missed the middle of that. Sorry.
So what I said was, when usually when people speak about challenges, they're not usually smiling. You're smiling about the challenges. It seems like you're very excited about what's going to be happening in the growth of the business.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you don't like challenges, then don't be an entrepreneur. So yeah, that's what it's all about, really. Challenges and problem solving. So yeah, I am excited by challenges, definitely.
Lovely.
That's a true statement.
I'm really looking forward to seeing what's happening with you and the team this year. But my final question, I know you've mentioned about your many years of experience in other businesses, and you're now founder of a business and recruiting. Given that unemployment has basically doubled since last year, and the market at the moment is full of loads of talented people looking for jobs. What advice have you got for those who are looking for jobs, but also for those who are going to be applying to Nivo?
Well, I think in any job, you know, I do think it's important that you enjoy it. So I think what's important to people looking for a job is that they don't just see it as a paycheck, you know, a way to get out of the position that they might find themselves in, but they actually try and look at, you know, what is it that I really want to do. It's such a big part of your life, isn't it? And we spent so many hours working, and I think it's such a big shame if you don't get like satisfaction from that. So yeah, definitely, I guess that's the only advice I'd say. And certainly, you know, from a personal perspective, that resonates because, like I say, even though I really enjoyed a lot about my jobs in previous positions in big corporations, it was just one big corporation. Um, you know, I always wanted to be an entrepreneur, and I was very nervous about doing it, but I'm so glad that I have, because whilst it's not an easy thing to do by any stretch, it's really fulfilling because I feel like I'm doing something like that I always wanted to do, living a dream in a way. So that's um, something I'd definitely recommend to anyone. In terms of working for Nivo, it's just that really. Like, you know, you've got to be, I think, a certain type of person in a startup. We talked about the autonomy. You've got to be comfortable with autonomy. You've got to be comfortable to kind of take accountability for things. Probably, you know, I think it's a certain type of person that can cope with the rate of change. And the lack of clarity, you know, the ambiguity about so much stuff. I mean, we aren't huge, well-oiled machines that have been doing things for years. We're kind of figuring things out as we go, really, and you've got to be comfortable with that. I think that can be absolutely the wrong thing for some people. So yeah, that kind of stuff's really important, and obviously, yeah, coming in to do something that you think you could be really passionate about.
Yeah, I think that part there is probably the most important bit, is that when people say that in a startup things change, I think people probably think that you're exaggerating, but they change so regularly. So you need to be ready and adaptable to it. So that is a really good piece of advice that I know a lot of people are going to be thinking about, especially if they're looking to go into a startup. But also a lot of the things you mentioned about being passionate about what you do, and if that is a larger business or a specific industry, it's really important to have that at the forefront of what you're doing.